Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you for joining today. We wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Madhav, Radha Shyamsundar, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gaurnitat, Srila Prabhupada, and Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. Continue with the sessions on Sanatana Dharma. And today, and probably tomorrow as well, we look at the Dasavatars. These are the 10 avatars, incarnations of God. So just a little catch up in one sense. So just refreshing ourselves. What is the belief system within Vedic Dharma or culture? Monotheistic, one God, or polytheistic, many gods. So actually, it's a bit of both. In one sense, Bhagavad Gita clearly states there's only one God, right? One God. But the Vedic conception goes beyond the one God. And it goes way beyond polytheistic. So what they're saying, what the Vedic scripture says, quite complex if we want to understand the full aspect. It's polymorphic monotheism, many forms of one God. So one God, but he has many forms, many incarnations. So we're going to look at those incarnations, some of them today. But there are also many other personalities, very powerful souls, like the Devatas, who act as intermediaries between us and God. So therefore, we could know this system as multi-layered polymorphic monotheism. But then also we understand that God exists as a divine couple, Radha Krishna, or Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan. So that one supreme soul manifests in two forms by monotheism. So you could understand the Vedic concept to be multi-layered, many demigods, polymorphic, many forms, by monotheism, many forms of that one God who expands as Radha Krishna. So it's a little complex, but this is quite a good way to understand Sanatana Dharma's view of God. Parikshit Maharaj, he asked Sukadeva Goswami, why does the Lord take forms which are not regarded attractive, like Varaha, the boar incarnation? But the answer was that the Lord is always transcendental. He's always beyond any material conception of beauty or attractiveness. And he's never affected by material conditions. Even when he comes to our world, he's never affected. He may take the form of a boar, which is not necessarily a very nice animal, but the Lord is not affected by the consciousness that is within the boar. His consciousness is always within the spiritual realm. He's God, after all. So let's have a look at these Dasavatars. We have the first incarnation, Matsya Avatar. He's described in the 8th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Kurma Avatar, also described in the 8th canto. Varaha, the boar incarnation, is described in the 3rd canto. Narsingha, the lion incarnation, described in 7th canto. So there isn't a particular order that the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with the Dasavatars. It's a little bit random, according to the mood of the speakers. But this is the order. Fish came first, then Kurma, then Varaha, then Narsingha. Vaman, the dwarf, or the small Brahmin boy, 8th canto. Pashuram, the warrior, 9th canto. Ram, 9th canto. 7 is Ram. 8 is Pashuram. 8 is Balaram, cowherd boy. Now the cowherd boy sometimes we say Krishna Balaram. Krishna is regarded as avatari, the source of the avatars. So he's not listed as one of the avatars. But sometimes people do say Krishna Balaram. 9th is Buddha, the teacher, and 10th is Kalki, the slayer. So Buddha is discussed in the 11th chapter because the Bhagavatam was written before Buddha came. So Buddha is a prediction, as is Kalki. Kalki is yet to come. And he's described in the 12th canto. So this, I think devotees may be familiar with. One day in the life of Brahma. This is one day. This is the life of Brahma. One day has 71 Mahayugs or Divya Yugs. And within each Yug, Divya Yug, there are 4 Yugs. So the Lord appears within these 4 Yugs. So what is the timeline? In the current day of Brahma, Shvetavara Kalpa, at the end of Chakshush Manvantara and the beginning of Vaivasvara Manvantara, Matsya Avatar took birth. So this is our Manu, our Manvantara. So right at the beginning, Matsya Avatar took incarnation. And then in the 4th Satya Yuga of Vaivasvara Manvantara, Varaha took birth. So much Kutch, Kutch, I'm not sure where he is actually. Anyway, Nrsimha appears also in the 4th Satya Yuga. In the 7th Treta Yuga of Vaivasvara Manvantara appears Vamandev. 10th Treta Yuga of Vaivasvara Manvantara appears Kurma. So there is Kurma. So the timeline is a little bit out. Much Kutch, we normally say, much Kutch. In the 19th Treta Yuga of Vaivasvara Muni comes Pashuram. In 24th Vaivasvara Muni comes Ram, Balaram, and then the Ramachandra. And then the 28th, the Dwapara Yuga just left, finished, comes Balaram. And in the same Kali Yuga, 28th Kali Yuga, comes Buddha, and at the end of the 28th Kali Yuga comes Kalki Avatar. So this is a little idea of the time. It's a little complicated. He appears in like different Satya Yuga. So it's not that he's Matsya has or Varaha has appeared in the same Divya Yuga as us, because we are in the 28th Divya Yuga. But these are appearing in different yugas, different Divya Yugas. So it's a little bit complicated. Anyway, Matsya Avatar, the first incarnation. Once at the end of the previous Kalpa, a demon named Hayagriva wanted to take the Vedic knowledge away from Lord Brahma at the time of annihilation. Brahma was visiting Shiva to seek his help. And Hayagriva knew of this and stole the Vedas. Therefore, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took the incarnation of a fish to take advantage of the floods of devastation at the beginning of the period of Swayambhu Manu and save the Vedas, which were handed back to Brahma. So this is one of the tasks of Matsya Avatar. He comes in order to rescue the Vedas from Hayagriva to give it back to Brahma. During the reign of Chakshush Manu, there was a king named Satyavrat, who was a great pious ruler. To save him, the Lord appeared as the fish incarnations for a second time. So this is the first time he comes as Matsya, but then he comes again as Matsya. King Satyavrat later became the son of the sun god and was known as Shraddhadev. He was established as Manu by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we'll have a look at this pastime. To receive the favor of the Lord, King Satyavrat, who was a Raj Rishi, was a good religious king who ruled the entire world. He was engaged in tapasya, austerity. He was just drinking water. One day, when the king was bathing in the Kritmala river, he scooped some clear water up into the palms of his hands. He saw there a tiny fish and immediately dropped it back into the water. So he was taking some water in his hands. He saw a little fish come into his hands and he put it back. Then he heard a soft voice crying, "My dear king, why are you throwing me back? When there are bigger fish who will eat me, I am afraid of them. Please help me." So this is really unusual, huh? A talking fish. Astonished at this talking fish, the king put the fish in a jug and then returned to the palace. The next morning, when the king went to see the fish, he was astonished to see it had grown. It was nearly as big as the jug. The fish said, "My dear king, I do not like living in this water pot. It is too small. Please find me somewhere more comfortable." So this is King Satyavrat, the fish jumping into his hands. He rescues it and he puts it in a pot. The king took the fish called Matsya and put him in a huge well in his palace gardens. Within a few moments, the fish grew until he was feeling very cramped by the walls of the well. Again, he asked the king to find him a larger home. The king took him to a nearby pond, but Matsya kept on growing. The king put him in the largest lake he could find, but when even that was not big enough, he decided to take him to the seashore, to the ocean. As Emperor Satyavrat was putting the fish into the ocean, he heard the fish exclaim, "Oh, hero, there are many powerful and dangerous sharks in this ocean who will eat me alive. Do not throw me in there." So hearing this, the king cried out, "How is it you can speak? You are a fish. Who are you? You must be an incarnation of God. My lord, I wish to know why you have taken this form. Please tell me." When King Satyavrat spoke in this way, Matsya replied, "O Emperor, your devotion has pleased me. Thus I have revealed myself to you in this form as a fish. Now please listen carefully as I tell you why." So now the Lord reveals himself. The universe is not eternal. It will not last forever. Everything in this world is temporary. By my arrangement, on the 7th day from today, the whole universe will flood with water. When all the planets flood, a huge boat sent by me will appear before you. I want you to collect all different types of herbs and seeds and load them onto the boat. Then, along with the 7 holy men, the Saptarishis, and all the different animals and other living beings, you should board the ship. You should not be disheartened. Even the sun and the moon will become very dim. The only light will be from the halos of the 7 sages. When the powerful winds toss your boat, tie it to my horn using the gigantic snake called Vasuki, as a rope. Together we will travel over the waters until the storm is a bit abated. During that time, I will instruct you in the knowledge of the Vedas. These sacred books reveal all the mysteries of the universe. Thus you will know everything about me and my creation. So after instructing the king, Matsya swam away in the middle of the ocean. And King Satyavrat began to wait. So this is a story, is a little bit like Noah's Ark in the Christian fables. It's very similar. Exactly 1 week later, huge, inky blue clouds gathered and rolled into the sky. In the sky, unending rain began to pour as thick as pillars. Gradually, all the rivers overflooded onto the land. So that's the flood that was predicted by Matsya. It was a time of devastation. At the time of devastation, naturally, these floods take place. As King Satyavrat remembered the order of the Lord, he saw a massive boat floating towards him. After loading the varieties of seeds, herbs, and creepers, the king boarded the boat with the 7 sages, saints, and all the different living entities. So this is the boat coming. And these are the Saptarishis with King Satyavrat. And the heavy storms. Fierce gales tossed the boat to and fro, but the king was not afraid as he remembered the Lord. Suddenly, against the black and stormy sky, he saw a gigantic golden form of Lord Matsya swimming towards him. On his head was an enormous golden horn. The emperor anchored the boat to Lord Matsya's horn, using Vasuki, a snake. He then offered the prayers, following prayers. So there you go. There's Matsyavatar, he's come. He's got a big horn. And the Lord, Satyavat Muni, he ties Vasuki to the horn and connects it to the boat, as was advised. There you go. There's Matsya, there's Vasuki, and there's the boat. And the boat is the Saptarishis, herbs, animals. For countless years, darkness covered the worlds, and together they wandered across the stormy wastes, waiting for the waters to subside. During their journey, Matsya instructed King Satyavrat and the sages in spiritual knowledge. So this is the fish incarnation. He's no ordinary fish. Otherwise, fish don't know the Vedas, let alone able to instruct the Vedas to anyone, let alone kings. The Lord taught them how this universe with all its planets was created. He explained how it remains for some time and how eventually it is all destroyed. He explained that the soul lives forever, even though the body must die. He taught that by serving him, Matsya or God, everybody can be happy and live eternally in the spiritual world. So there's Matsyavatar protecting the body, the boat rather. Upon hearing the words of the divine person in his form as a huge fish, the king and the saints all became peaceful and happy. Thus they developed a love for God. Later, these teachings of Lord Matsya became part of the Vedic scriptures. Since then, many saints have spent their lives studying these books. In this way, they have tried to become perfect human beings by loving God and loving all his creatures. King Satyavrat took his next birth as Vaivasvata Manu. And Vaivasvata Manu is one of the first Manus who is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, because Krishna taught the Bhagavad Gita to Ikshwaku, and Ikshwaku taught it to Manu. This is the Manu. Rupa Goswami explains that Matsya appears at the end of every Manvantara for a similar mission, to facilitate subsequent creation at the end of each devastation. It is said that whoever hears this story is delivered from the ocean of sinful life. So this pastime, Matsyavatar ki jai, is given in the Srimad Bhagavad Puran and many other Puranas as well. It's not something that's been made up, according to the scriptures. Next, we look at Kurma avatar. So much Kach. Kach means tortoise. Kurma is the tortoise avatar. Once the saint Durvasa Muni was walking down the road in heaven, and he saw the king of the Devatas, Indra, on the back of his white elephant, Airavrat. So Durvasa Muni, he was happy. he took a garland of marigolds from around his own neck and he offered it to the king. But Indra was very proud. Sometimes he gets very proud of his wealth and his power. So he took the garland, and without respect for the sage, he placed the garland on the trunk of this elephant. Now, elephant is an elephant. The creature immediately dashed the garland to the ground and he stepped all over it. Durvasa Muni was offended, his face red with anger. He cursed the king. Because of your arrogance, you will lose all of your opulence. And Durvasa Muni is very powerful. He's very ferocious as well when he's angry. Shortly afterwards, the demons launched a powerful attack on the heavenly kingdom. Because of the curse of Durvasa, the demigods suffered heavy casualties. They feared total defeat at the hands of their enemy. This is Durvasa Muni cursing Indra. In desperation, Lord Brahma and the Devatas consulted Lord Vishnu. Now, where did they go? They didn't go to the spiritual world. They went to Shvetadvip in this material world. This is like the embassy of Narayan or Vishnu. So they went to that planet. And on an island within the ocean of milk, standing on the jeweled shore of that ocean, they prayed to the Lord. And how they pray? The demigods, they pray, they say the Purusha Shukta. This is given in the Rig Vedas. The Purusha Shukta, a beautiful set of prayers which glorify the creative potency of the Lord. So they prayed like that with their hearts. And they received the following message. My dear demigods, the demons have become too powerful for you. You must make a truce with them and offer to work together. Unusual request. Usually the Lord will say, I'll come and give him a beating, don't worry. But in this case, the Lord said, make a truce. Become friends with the demons. Very unusual. And the demigods were surprised. What's this? What's going on? Vishnu then explained his plan of action. So that we'll come to see. Following this advice, King Indra approached the king of the demons. So the king of the demons was Bali Maharaj. Now, Bali Maharaj, if you remember, is the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. He's the one who, when we talked about the 9 processes of Bhakti Yoga, Bali Maharaj is one of the persons who's perfected one of the processes, which is surrender to the Lord, because he gave his head for the Lord to put his foot on. So, but he's regarded to be, this is before that pastime took place. But he was born in a family of demons. Prahlad was born in a family of demons. Hiranyakashipu was his father. And Prahlad's son was Virochana. And Virochana's son was Bali Maharaj. So a family of demons. So he's the head of the demons, although he's a devotee. So this is a little confusing. My dear King Bali, I have plans to produce the most valuable medicine, the nectar of immortality. By drinking this, anyone can live forever. So this was the plan. The Lord said to the Devatas, work with the demons and churn the ocean. And from the ocean, nectar will come. And you will partake in that nectar. Bali was interested. He agreed to help. He thought, once we help produce the nectar, we demons can easily steal it from the weakened demigods. So he and Indra signed a truce. So this is the Lord Vishnu in the island of Shvetadvip in the ocean of milk. and the Devatas situated there praying for help. With great effort, the demigods and the demons carried the golden mountain. So how do you churn an ocean? In order to churn, you need something to, you need the rope and you need a churning vessel. So the vessel they used was the mountain, Mandara, the churning to use as a churn. But it was very heavy to carry that mountain. And many of the demons and the demigods lost their lives. But Vishnu came at that time and he saved them all. He gave them their life back. And Vishnu lifted this mountain and he carried that mountain to the ocean. They then requested the great serpent Vasuki to serve as a rope for turning the rod. Vasuki reluctantly agreed, because Vasuki was a little bit worried. Because Garud, the Lord came on Garud, and Garud and Vasuki, Garud is an eagle, Vasuki is a snake. The natural food for the eagle is the snake. So Vasuki was a little bit, hey, what about this Garud? He's going to eat me up. But Lord Vishnu said, don't worry, he won't eat you up. I'll make sure he doesn't. Curling him around the mountain, the demons took hold of his head as they desired, leaving the demigods to hold his tail. So this is now they're churning the ocean. There you go, churning the ocean. One side, the demons at the head of Vasuki, and Vasuki was very poisonous, so many demons lost their lives because of the poison from Vasuki. But the demigods, they had the tail. So they were using this mountain to churn. Now, initially when they started to churn, the mountain just collapsed. So Lord Kurma, Kach appeared. Kach appeared as an incarnation of the Lord to hold the mountain up. So let's have a look at this pastime. After spinning only 3 or 4 times, the mountain sank deep into the mud of the bottom of the ocean. It needed a pivot on which to rest. Both parties were frustrated and annoyed. As they pondered the problem, the Lord gave the solution. Lord Vishnu took the form of a gigantic turtle, lifted the golden mountain on his back. The demigods and the demons resumed their churning. This time the mountain turned smoothly on top of the turtle, who was enjoying having his back scratched. So God doesn't do anything by halves. He enjoyed the churning of that mountain on his back. Because when the turtle gets an itch, he can't, his hands are too small to reach behind to give it a scratch. And the Lord wanted to be scratched. And he enjoyed that scratching sensation of the mountain being churned. This is one of the reasons why Kurma appears to have his back scratched. There you go, Kurma avatar. And there's a mountain, the rope, the demons, demigods. But still there was a problem. At first, the churning produced a deadly poison. Even before that, the mountain wasn't very steady. So Lord Vishnu came as Ajita with 1,000 arms, and he sat on the mountain to give it that steadiness. At first, the churning produced a deadly black poison which floated over the waves, threatening to pollute the entire universe. This was alarming. This was not good news. So they approached Mahadev, Lord Shiva, the greatest of the demigods, who was sitting in meditation in the Himalayas. See, when the demigods and demons were doing this, he was not agitated because he's the greatest Vaishnav. But when they came to ask for his help, he, being very kind-hearted, he agreed, and he drank the poison. No, he didn't quite drink it. He held the poison in his throat. He didn't want the poison to go below because he knows that the Lord is also residing in his body. He doesn't want to punish the Lord with the poison. So he held it in his throat, and that's why it's called Nilkant. His throat becomes blue from the poison. As he drank some of it, a few drops spilled here and there. And those drops were drunk by the scorpions and the snakes, other poisonous creatures. So it's because of that the scorpions are poisonous, the snakes are poisonous. There you go. Lord Shiva takes the poison in his throat, and here's the serpents and the snakes. The demigods and demons continued to pull on the huge snake, churning the milky waters. Out of the ocean rose magical animals like Surabhi, Gaumata came from the churning. And she was gifted to the Saptarishis. Sparkling gems came, fragrant flowers, medicinal herbs. So medicinal herbs, that's Dhanvantari, the Lord of medicine, Ayurveda. So this churning was very powerful. At last, a beautiful blackish figure emerged from the waves, dressed in yellow garments and decorated with red, green, and blue gems. He carried a pot filled to the brim with nectar. This is the pot of nectar, which gives immortality. The demons immediately snatched the pot and ran off. They began to argue amongst themselves, hey, why should you drink it first? What about me? No honor amongst thieves. The demigods were disappointed. They prayed to Lord Vishnu for help. The Lord assumed the form of Mohini, an exquisitely beautiful woman. So this is the Lord, who is Purush, took the form of Prakriti, a lady named Mohini. She had a darkish complexion, was dressed in crimson sari, and wore golden bangles. Her eyes moved to and fro. The demons were enamored by her feminine movements. Handing over the jug of nectar, they asked her to settle the dispute. So they were enticed. They were completely overawed by Mohini. So they gave because they didn't want to fight in front of her, they gave the pot to her to decide what to do. Mohini then seated them all in a row and asked the demigods to do the same, some distance away. Sweetly addressing the demons, she said, the demigods are very greedy to taste the nectar, so let me just give them a little. You are our great heroes because you are very patient. I know you won't mind waiting a little longer. The demons were flattered and didn't dare say a word. They remained silent as Mohini served the nectar to their enemies. Not just a little bit, but every drop. So she gave everything to the demigods. Mohini then turned herself back into her original form of Vishnu. The demons' jaws dropped open. They had been tricked. They had worked so hard, but achieved nothing. The demigods also had worked very hard, but they had depended on God. Now they were freed from the miseries of old age, disease, and death. So something happened just before this anyway. Rahu and Ketu, two demons, sat amongst the demigods. And they also got a little bit of the nectar. But before the nectar went down their throat, Mohini chopped their necks off. So they're eternally existing as planets. Rahu who's always bothering Chandra and Surya, because that's where they're set, and Ketu. The demons also had worked hard, but they didn't have the blessings of Vishnu. They only got disappointed and they only got poison. This is the fate of an atheistic society which works hard to acquire material success and comfort, but offers nothing to God. All its good work turned into poison and pollution, ends up with nothing. So we have to be careful. We should use our wealth to serve God, to serve those who need assistance. Very important. So this pastime is phenomenal because there are at least 5 incarnations of God. Kurma, the tortoise, whose back was scratched. The 1,000-armed Vishnu. Oh, that's right. He's not Ajita. He's called something else. Can't remember his name now. Stood on, who was at the top of the mountain. There he is. And then Ajita. Ajita, he assisted the Lord to churn the ocean, the demigods. So he was on the side of the demigods. So that's the 3rd incarnation in this pastime. 4th incarnation is Vishnu enters the demons as the quality of passion, the demigods as the quality of goodness, and Vasuki as the quality of ignorance to encourage them and increase their potency. And then there's the 5th incarnation. Oh, there's 6 actually. The Lord of Medicine, Dhanvantari appears. Dhanvantari. And then we have number 6, the Enchantress Mohini. There she is. So Kurma avatar ki jai. So we only had time to do 2 avatars, but very interesting pastimes. Any questions, any comments? Okay, we can stop there. Dasavatar ki jai.
Prabhuji, really enjoyed both avatars.
Yeah,
and I just found out one thing. No, you said about God Shiva drank the
poison.
And I didn't knew that. And some of the poison drops on the floor, and all the snakes and scorpions, and they drank the poison, and that's why they are poisonous. I didn't knew that. Today is the first time I knew. I mean, I know what you said, which was very good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, very interesting that. Very interesting. Okay, so let's stop. Where are you? Okay, where are you?